Hi everyone, Emily here from Emily Reads, and today I have for you my February reading wrap up and then also my haul slash unhaul. So I've decided to add the hauls and the unhauls to my reading wrap ups because I'm trying to read down my TBR very slowly but surely because I just keep hauling books. So let me start off with the stats from the beginning of the month. So at the beginning of the month, I started off with 737 total books owned. 265 of those are read. 472 of them were unread. So that means that 64.04% of my books are unread. So that's where we started. I would like to, by the end of the year, have that number under 50%. And I keep saying that every year, and it hasn't happened yet. So hopefully it happens this year. I think I'm going to have to do a little bit more unhauling. But in the month of February, I read a total of 6 books. 5 were new to me, so that's good. For my average rating was a 4.33, and I read 2,515 pages. And we're going to start off actually with my best book of the month. I read a bunch of different genres. It was all over the place. Historical fiction, fantasy romance, magical realism, and mystery. I was all over the place. So first up was my favorite book of the month, and that is The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. This is set shortly after the Revolutionary War, I believe. What year are we? Let me see. 1789. So yes, after the Revolutionary War. And this tells the story of a midwife. Her name is Martha, and Martha Ballard, who actually was a real person. The author looked at her diary entries to kind of help to help write this, but like her diary entries were more like today's date, what the weather was like, briefly what she did that day, were there any births that she helped deliver. Um, so it wasn't very detailed. But it starts off with Martha, and there is a man who is found dead in the river that runs through town. And the question is, was this man murdered or not? And this man was also accused of essaying the ex-pastor's wife in town. And so I thought this was just a beautifully written book. I really enjoyed learning more about this time period. I love the fact that we have a woman who is portrayed as strong and intelligent and is also respected by the majority of her peers. There were a few that were like, we don't want you when a new doctor rolls into town. Um, I like some of the writing is just beautiful. So I'm going to read a couple of quotes. So first, this is Martha reflecting on things. She said, "Memory is a wicked thing that warps and twists, but paper and ink receive the truth without emotion, and they read it back without partiality. That, I believe, is why so few women are taught to read and write. God only knows what they would do with the power of pen and ink at their disposal. I have a rather good idea what secrets might be recorded, then later revealed if more women took up the pen." Like, it was just really good, um, like, just really good insights. She does have a son who, I think they had scarlet fever. And as a result of that scarlet fever, he ends up becoming mute and is unable to speak. And so they're at this party, and there's Cyrus. He's not able to speak. He's a respected member of the community, but people don't know how to communicate with him because he now speaks in sign language. The family knows it, and he can also like write, but you have to be able to read in order to communicate with him, right? And so um, here's what I also thought was beautiful, what she writes about her son Cyrus. You think it'll break your heart to have a child who suffers in this way, one who is seen as damaged. You think perhaps it is your fault somehow, that if you'd only done something different, taken better care of him, this would have never happened. And then he asks you to dance on a cold January evening. And you realize that perhaps you are a fool. And whatever his life may be now, different than you'd imagined all those years ago, when he grew in your womb and curled into your hand, you set upon your stomach, he is perfect. I loved it. I loved that there was acceptance of this son who with a disability now. So again, this is a murder mystery. You do learn who kills the man. You will be angry. You will cry. I'm tearing up now after reading that quote. It was just so beautiful written. 5 stars. Highly recommend this book if you have not read it. All right, I gotta go quicker. I spent so much time on that one book. Then I read Keeper of the Lost Cities Legacy, and I really enjoyed this book. So here's the deal. We now, this is book 8, so I'm going to have to try to speak about this without being too spoilery. So we've got a love triangle. We kind of know this. Okay, I can't be spoilery. So as long as you see me holding up this book, there are going to be spoilers for this book because I don't know how to speak about this. Well, yeah, there might be spoilers. So here's what I like. I do feel like I'm beginning to feel at this point in the series that Shannon Messenger needed a better editor. There are some times where I just feel like it can be cut down in some of the page length. This was 787 pages long, and I just feel like we need to tighten up some of the telling of the story. I love Ro. Ro is Keith's bodyguard. I loved her and the things and the hints that she was dropping. I love Keith. I am Team Keith all the way. And I'm not a big Fitz fan. And I feel like Fitz can be very selfish. And I don't, like, the only thing that I think why Sophie likes him is like, oh, he's cute. I'm Team Keith all the way. So there's my spoiler. I gave this one 4 stars because, again, I felt like it was kind of beginning to drag some, and Fitz just annoyed me. Team Keith. All right, and then I read The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern. I also hauled this book this month. So this is one of the 7 books that I hauled this month. This is by Linda Cohen Logman. And this is a second chance romance, and it's got magical realism. And so Augusta Stern, she's a retired pharmacist. She's 80 years old, and she moves to Florida as part of this like retirement community. And there she discovers her long lost love from when she was a teenager growing up in 1920s Brooklyn. And when she was in 1920s Brooklyn, her father had a pharmacy store, and her mother had passed away when she was younger. And so her great aunt moves in with them, and her great aunt would make different elixirs and help the women in town with various ailments, much to her father's dismay, and did not want the aunt helping them because he felt like, what are you doing? These are not tried and true and approved medicines from a pharmacy. But the grandma's remedies worked, and lots of things happened that split apart Augusta and her love. What was his name? I can't remember. Irving. And they meet again at this retirement community. And this was just such a beautiful story. I was like, I'm not sure how I'm going to like this. It was just a beautiful story of love, of loss, of regret, of having to, take non-traditional roles at that time and like being like one of the first women, in pharmacy school and having to study that and the obstacles that were there, it was beautiful. I am so glad I read this. So this was also a 5-star read. And then I read Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. And I gave this, what did I give this? I gave it 3.5 stars. Okay. So this is, I read this as book 3 in the Throne of Glass series. I'm currently reading Assassin's Blade now. So there's different like reading orders that you can do. I'm doing like the romantic arc reading order that's putting Assassin's Blade as book 4. So trying to figure out how to speak about this. There were parts where I'm like, how did Selena get from here to here? I'm so confused by that. Um, and I just was going along for the ride. And I think part of it too, when I started reading this, um, February was a really challenging month at work. I got 2 new students that have a lot of needs for support. I had a practicum student who was really struggling. I had 3 IEPs. So, like, work was really stressful. And I would just come home and really struggle to try to read and, like, retain things. So, I think that that impacted my reading of this book. Another thing that kind of I was beginning to get frustrated, I felt like I was like, Sarah J. Maas, can you give us more showing us versus telling? Like, so in a description of Rowan, she says he was armed to the teeth, his face a mask of unyielding brutality. What does that mean? What does a face of unyielding brutality look like? I don't know. Can you describe it rather than just being like telling me? Like, so I just started to get kind of frustrated with her writing style. I did enjoy it. I love Manon. Manon's cool. I want more of Manon and Abraxas. So I'm looking forward to reading more in the series. And I want Manon to take a different path in life. So hopefully, well, like I would love to see Selena and Manon like unite. That would be awesome. And then I read by Agatha Christie, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. And I gave this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was good. What I did not like, I mean, it's a product of its time, but I was like, can we not? I didn't think it was necessary for Hercule Poirot to basically kind of belittle our narrator to make himself look smarter. Like, I didn't think that was necessary. Like, he kind of belittles the narrator. And it's easy to see that Hercule Poirot doesn't think much of the narrator's intelligence. So that was kind of annoying. But I did enjoy it. This is the first Poirot mystery, and this is just basically they're all at this country estate, and this elderly benefactress, she is poisoned and is a murderer, and who did it, and it's very typical of Christie's style, which you would think by now I would. I've read a handful of her books. At this point, I've read them, Then There Were None, Death on the Nile, Halloween Party, and this book. But I've also seen like Murder on the Orient Express and Evil Under the Sun. So I kind of know her style, and you would think I would have figured out the murder, and I kind of did, but I also kind of didn't. But I did enjoy it. I do need to read more of her. And then last but not least, I read The Westing Game, which I have read this before. This is a middle grade mystery by Ellen Raskin. It won the Newbery Award. This came out in 1978. And I mention that because, reader be warned, I knocked this rating down. I gave it 4.5 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. I'm toying with knocking that down to 4 stars. Yes, I understand it was a product of its time. But, well, let me tell you what this is about before I then explain why I knocked it down. Okay, so this is about a wealthy man who these all these different characters are invited to live in this apartment complex. It's brand new, called Sunset Towers, and they're all invited to this apartment complex. And then Sam Westing, who is like a millionaire, he runs like a paper product company. He dies, and he leaves behind this will and says, all of my wealth will go to the one who solves the mystery of who killed me. And they are all tied to him in some way. And so they're paired together, and they're given clues to help figure out like who might have murdered Sam Westing. And they're paired together to solve this mystery. And so like I enjoyed like following all the different characters, the different clues, the gaming aspect, the puns. Like I really enjoy the story. Here's what I did not like. There is a Chinese American couple. The father is from China. He is now married to his second wife, who came over from China. And she's much younger than he is. And she doesn't speak much English. And I felt like there was a lot of like older, stereotypical, demeaning depictions of her that I just, like, she came across as very unintelligent. And just because she didn't speak English, and I really did not appreciate that. There's also another character in this book who she had a daughter, and it's very clear based on the descriptions, like, and the daughter is deceased. It's very clear from the descriptions that her daughter had Down syndrome. And what I did not appreciate was they do use the R word to describe her. They use very old, dated terms, like just terrible terms that used to be used to describe people who had Down syndrome. But they do use R word and then that other word that starts with an M. And I know it's a product of its time. I just don't like those terms, and I just have a problem with them. So that's why I knocked it down a rating, because I don't think it's necessary to use those terms. So that is all I read. I didn't feel like I read a lot, but I think I actually read more this month in February than I did in January. Go figure. But then again, in January, I couldn't count. And I read like 1,000 pages in Rhythm of War because I haven't finished it yet. So I count all of the pages of the book in the month that I finished the book in. All right, now let's go with the books I hauled. I already showed you The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to move books aside. From Pango, I picked up 2 books. Now, one I used credits for, and that is Olivia Dade, At First Spite. And that is, this is about Athena Graydon, and her fiance ends their engagement. So she moves into what's called the Spite House that she bought her fiance as a wedding gift. But then the house is like, is 10 feet wide. It's tiny. Her ex's home is attached to hers. And then the younger brother of her ex-fiance is on her other side. So like she's in between her ex and her brother's ex. And so she, I guess, kind of hooks up with the brother of her ex. So I've heard really good things about this book, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I bought it thinking I might read it in February. Between Clue Readathon, Life, it just didn't happen. But I'm looking forward to reading this at some point in time. Also from Pango, I did not use credits for this. Someone recommended this to me in the Get a Clue Readathon and Mrs. White's team chat, because I was like, oh man, if I get to this, I need a book that starts with an M. And they recommended this to me. Well, it came yesterday, which was the last day of February, and there's no way I could have read it for Get a Clue Readathon. But I could read this for March Mystery Madness, perhaps. And that is Magritte and the Yellow Dog by, I just have the last name, Simeon? Georges Simenon. I don't know. So this is translated from French, and it's not the first in the series, but this is all I really know is that this is a Belgium author, and I've heard good things about it, so we'll give it a shot. It's short, so that'll be nice. It's 135 pages, so that'll be nice. Like maybe I am going to do Ramathon, so I could do this during like the Peace Talks weekend, maybe, or just a quick read to add to our team's points. I did also pick up a book of poems. I normally don't read poetry, but this is by Amanda Gordon, and this is Call Us What We Carry. So Amanda Gorman, she was the poet who spoke at the last two read her poetry work at the last two presidential inaugurations. And this book has actually now been restricted in some Florida schools. Because it incites, oh gosh, why did they say it? They said that it incites hatred, I think, was some of the claims. I don't know. But I read the poem that she read at the presidential inauguration is online, and I read it, and it's so beautiful and so powerful. And so I was like, man, I need to read more of her work. So purchase this. And then my book of the month, well, you saw my add-on that I had for the Love Elixir of Augusta Stern. That was one add-on that I purchased. The main book I purchased is First Time Caller. And I was hoping to read it in February because it's a rom-com in February, Valentine's Day. It did not happen. This is by B.K. Borson. I've never read anything by her. This is apparently supposed to be like a Sleepless in Seattle inspired love story. It's been a long time since I've seen Sleepless in Seattle, so I might have to rewatch it after I read this book. This is about Aidan Valentine, and he has fallen out of love with love, but he is the host of a romance hotline, so that's kind of problematic. Then this girl calls in looking for dating advice for her mom, and then that interview goes viral. And Lucy Stone has a good job. She's funny. She's smart. But like her child, calls into that Aidan Valentine's show. And so it sounds super cute. I'm looking forward to reading it. I've heard good things about it. So looking forward to that. I got for an add-on Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This is book 2 in the Crimson Moth series. I really loved Heartless Hunter. And so Heartless Hunter is about Rune Winters, and she is a witch, but she has to hide the fact that she's a witch. And Gideon Sharp, he is a witch hunter. Witches used to be in power, and then the people overthrew them, and so now witches are hunted and killed. And so this is truly like an enemies to lovers kind of romance. And I am really looking forward to reading this sequel. And then I also got, I forgot to put this in my March pile of possibilities, but I did get Kingdom of Claw by Demi Winters. Gosh, this is a chunky beast. This is over 600 pages long. So this is book 2 in the Ashen series. Kind of hoping it's only duology, but I don't think it's going to be. But I'm planning on buddy reading this with some people over at Sarah Reed's Discord later in March. And this, in book 1, it followed Scylla Nordvig, and her father is murdered in front of her, and these like the king or the queen's men's are like hunting her, and she has to flee. And she ends up at one night taking refuge in a covered wagon. And it turns out that covered wagon belongs to these bands of mercenaries. And so she convinces them, please take me up on this road north, as I'm trying to get to this town where my father said, like, if I go to this town and ask for this person, I will, like, be able to have sanctuary. And she is what I liked about the series, one, it's Nordic inspired, which I love Viking inspired things. But also she very much like, yes, there's magic in this world, but she doesn't quite understand it. And she's not like I'm 16 years old and I am like strong and powerful. And it's not like I'm coming into my powers and I immediately understand them overnight. No, it's not like that. She very much is not the strong, powerful. She does have powers, but she's trying to learn them. And I enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying a character in there that would be spoilery if I mentioned him. But he is a shadow daddy, like a true shadow daddy, and I like him, and I want more of him. All right, so those are all the books that I hauled. 7 books. Woo! March, I have already hauled 6 books. So here's the deal. I have 2 pre-orders that are coming to me in March. I have Oathbound and just book 3 in the Legendborn series by Tracy Deonn. And I also have Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare, which is book 2 following Swordcatcher. Those are pre-ordered. And then I also ordered 4 books with Book of the Month. One, though, was free because I did get the Gods of the Woods virtual book club that I'm doing. We're going to read that book together in May. So it's like, might as well get that. It's free. I'll get that. I'll have that on hand for May. So March is going to see me slowing down on buying books because after all those come in, because Lent is starting and I've decided I need to give up book buying for Lent. Okay. But I do have some books that I'm going to unhaul. 2 of them I have not read. 3 of them are doubles. So I've got 5 books I'm unhauling. So first of all, I'm going to unhaul The Lion Game by Ruth Ware. My Secret Santa gave this to me for a gift this December. And I'm just like, you know what? I really am not going to read it, I don't think. And if I do, it's not going to be anytime soon. So might as well just get rid of it. And I do know, like, the one that I want to read by her is The Turn of the Key. I think that's the one. Because I love Turn of the Screw. So if I were to read a Ruth Ware, that would be the one that I would read. I haven't read this one, so it kind of kills me. Because I bought it brand new. But this is Empire in Black and Gold by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So I bought this with the intent of possibly being part of a buddy read. It didn't happen. That's okay. But this is like the first book in like a 14 or 16 book series. I can't remember how long. And like I'm working my way through the Cosmere. I need to read Wheel of Time. I have all of Malazan I need to read. I have The Expanse I need to read. I can't add another really long series right now. I can't do it. So I know I'm hoping this will go well on Pango. So we're going to unhaul it. This kind of kills me to unhaul, but I have the newer covers. I know this is the OG cover. I found it dirt cheap. But I don't know how I'd collect all the other covers. And the other covers are expensive. And I'm not going to pay an exorbitant amount of money for books. I'm getting rid of this copy of Heir of Fire. I kind of feel guilty about that. Because I'm like, I know these people are dying for these books. But I just am like, I have all of the other covers. I can't justify the amount of shelf space I have and the books that I have and keeping and wanting, like, I can't justify keeping it. It kind of kills me. But this is the only original cover that I have, so it just doesn't make sense to keep it. I'm also going to be so now I'll have 2 of these books, 2 of the Fake Mate in my Pango store. So what happened was Amazon, I didn't have problems like this before. I've lived in this apartment for 8 years now, or 9 years now. And until recently, until the past year and a half, I've had no problems with Amazon deliveries. Now they're all delivering to the other building. They get confused, my building with the other building. At any rate, so they misdelivered my package. I didn't know it for like about a week or so. So then I called Amazon. I was like, hey, like so I put in another order. They delivered it to the right place, but then I got the original order. So I had 2 of these, and I contacted them, and they're like, you could just keep them. So I don't need doubles of this book in the first place, but then in the second place, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like something that I was planning on rereading. And then same thing, Amazon delivered this book to the wrong place, didn't know about it for like a week, and whatever. I have 2 copies of Jade Legacy, so that will also go in my Pango shop. So after this video, I'll be taking pictures of uploading in my Pango shop, and I'll put the link in my description. Phew, that is all. Let me know, how was your February reading? Did you participate in any readathons? What was your favorite book of February? And if you don't want to comment, but please, like, if you don't have anything, like, if you don't know what to comment, like, leave some, if there's an emoji of like either a heart or for February, or like a shamrock for March, leave that in the comments below. Those comments do help grow the channel. And then as always, please like and subscribe, hit that notification button. Do appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.